Imagine growing up in a tiny cabin in the Smoky Mountains with 11 siblings, very little money, and no guarantee that tomorrow would be easier than today. Now imagine turning that humble beginning into a career filled with Jolene, 9 to 5, I Will Always Love You, sold-out concerts, blockbuster movies, theme parks, books, businesses, and one of the most recognizable names in entertainment. That is the extraordinary story of Dolly Parton. But Dolly's story isn't simply about becoming rich and famous. It's about a little girl from rural Tennessee who had a huge imagination, a voice that could stop a room, and a dream that refused to stay small. And perhaps the most beautiful part, she never forgot where she came from. Early life. A little girl with a very big dream. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946, in East Tennessee, in the Great Smoky Mountains region. She was the fourth of 12 children born to Robert Lee Parton Sr. and Avie Lee Parton. The family lived in humble circumstances, and Dolly's childhood was shaped by poverty, faith, family and music. Her father worked hard, including as a farmer and construction worker, while her mother cared for the enormous household. There wasn't much money in the Parton household, but there was something priceless. Music. Dolly grew up surrounded by singing. Gospel music, traditional mountain songs and family performances became part of everyday life. For the young Dolly, singing wasn't just entertainment. It was a way of life. Her family famously had so many children that privacy was practically a luxury. Yet those crowded surroundings also helped shape the performer Dolly would eventually become. She learned early how to tell stories, make people laugh, make people listen, and most importantly, how to turn ordinary experiences into unforgettable songs. Her childhood experiences would later inspire songs such as Coat of Many Colors, a deeply personal song about the poverty she experienced as a child. And there was one more important influence. Her mother encouraged her creativity, while her uncle Bill Owens helped recognize Dolly's extraordinary musical potential and assisted her early career. Dolly herself has credited Owens with helping her get started in the music business. Her parents, the people behind the superstar. Dolly's father, Robert Lee Parton Sr., was a hard-working man who did not have much formal education. In fact, Dolly later said that her father's inability to read and write became one of the reasons she created one of her greatest philanthropic projects. Her mother, Avie Lee Parton, was deeply musical and raised her children around songs, stories and faith. Together, Robert and Avie Lee created a family where resources were scarce but love and creativity were abundant. And Dolly never forgot their sacrifices. Years later, when she had achieved extraordinary wealth and fame, she used her success to give back to the people and communities that reminded her of home. That connection to her parents became one of the most powerful themes of her life. Her 11 siblings, a family full of talent. Dolly was one of 12 children, meaning she had 11 siblings. Her brothers and sisters were Willadine Parton, David Wilburn Parton, Coy, Denver, Parton, Robert, Bobby, Parton Jr., Stella Parton, Cassie Parton, Randy Parton, Larry Parton, Floyd Parton, Frida Parton, Rachel Parton. Several members of the family became involved in music, writing, acting or other creative pursuits. Stella, Randy, Floyd, Cassie and Rachel, in particular, had connections to the entertainment world. Sadly, Dolly also experienced the heartbreak of losing several siblings over the years, including Larry, who died as an infant, as well as brothers David, Coy, Randy and Floyd. Despite the fame that separated Dolly from most people, her family remained an important part of her identity. She could become a global superstar, but deep down she was still the girl from the Smokies. Education. School wasn't the end of her story. Dolly attended Sevier County High School, where she even played drums in the marching band. She graduated in 1964. But instead of heading to college, Dolly made a bold decision. She packed her dreams and moved to Nashville. She was only 18. That was the moment the little girl with the big voice began chasing the biggest dream of her life. And Nashville wasn't waiting for her with open arms. She had to fight for her place. But Dolly had something that couldn't be taught in a classroom. Determination. Her first steps into music. Dolly's talent became obvious remarkably early. At just 13, she released her first single, Puppy Love. That same year, she made her first appearance at the legendary Grand Ole Opry, where she performed with her uncle Bill Owens. And the young Dolly didn't simply walk onto that famous stage. She reportedly received 3 encores. Think about that for a moment. A 13-year-old girl from rural Tennessee had walked onto one of country music's most important stages, and already had audiences demanding more. By the time she graduated high school, Dolly knew exactly what she wanted. She wanted Nashville, she wanted music, and she wanted a career on her own terms. The Porter Wagoner years. After moving to Nashville, Dolly's career began gaining momentum. One of the biggest turning points came in 1967, when she joined the Porter Wagoner Show. Porter Wagoner was already a major country music personality, and appearing on his television program gave Dolly national exposure. But Dolly wasn't content to remain simply Porter Wagoner's girl singer. She wanted to prove that she could stand on her own. And eventually, she did. Their professional relationship became complicated at times, but it helped introduce Dolly to millions of viewers and gave her a platform from which she could build her solo career. Then came the song that changed everything. Jolene, I Will Always Love You, and the songs that became immortal. Dolly Parton's songwriting became one of her greatest weapons. She wasn't simply a singer. She was a storyteller. She could take jealousy, heartbreak, ambition, poverty, love and loneliness and turn them into songs that felt personal to millions of listeners. In 1973, she released Jolene. The song became one of her signature recordings. But perhaps even more astonishing is that Dolly wrote, I Will Always Love You. She originally recorded the song herself, but years later, Whitney Houston's powerful rendition transformed it into a global phenomenon through the film The Bodyguard. Dolly's composition became one of the most famous love songs in modern music. And that is the thing about Dolly. She didn't just create hits. She created songs that other generations could inherit. From country star to Hollywood star, Dolly wasn't satisfied with conquering country music. She wanted to act. And she proved she could. Her breakthrough movie role came in 9 to 5, alongside Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. The film became a huge success, while Dolly's title song became another major hit. Suddenly, Dolly wasn't just a country singer. She was an actress, a songwriter, a performer, a television personality, and a businesswoman. Her charm made her instantly recognizable, while her humor allowed her to laugh at herself and challenge stereotypes about glamorous women in entertainment. She followed 9 to 5 with films including The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, Rhinestone, Steel Magnolias and other projects that expanded her audience beyond country music. Marriage. Dolly and Carl Dean. Behind the enormous public persona was a remarkably private love story. Dolly met Carl Dean in Nashville in 1964, shortly after she moved there. Carl wasn't a celebrity. In fact, he preferred staying away from the spotlight. Dolly fell in love with him, and the couple married on May 30, 1966, in a small ceremony in Ringgold, Georgia. Dolly was just 20 years old. Their marriage lasted for nearly 6 decades, despite the enormous pressures that come with worldwide fame. Carl lived an extremely private life, while Dolly spent decades performing in front of millions. Somehow, they made the difference work. Their relationship became one of Hollywood's great examples of opposites attracting. Dolly once described Carl as the love of her life, and in 2016, they renewed their vows for their 50th wedding anniversary. Carl Dean died in March 2025, ending one of the longest and most private marriages in entertainment history. Did Dolly Parton have children? This is one of the most frequently asked questions about Dolly Parton's personal life. No, Dolly and Carl never had biological children. Dolly has spoken openly about the fact that motherhood might have changed the direction of her life and career. Instead, she became a beloved figure to generations of nieces, nephews, godchildren and young people around the world. And there is a beautiful twist to that story. Dolly may not have had children of her own, but she dedicated enormous energy to helping children. Her love for children became one of the defining parts of her legacy. The Imagination Library. turning a childhood struggle into a global gift. In 1995, Dolly launched the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in her home county of Sevier County, Tennessee. The inspiration came directly from her father. Because he never learned to read or write, Dolly wanted to help children have opportunities that he never had. The program began by providing free books to young children. Then something extraordinary happened. It grew, and grew, and grew. Today, the Imagination Library reaches children across multiple countries and has distributed hundreds of millions of books. Dolly's official organization says the program now sends more than 2 million free books each month. The woman once raised in poverty had found a way to fight poverty of opportunity. She turned her success into someone else's starting point. Dollywood, building an empire from her roots. Dolly also became a major businesswoman. One of her most famous ventures is Dollywood, the theme park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. The park isn't just an entertainment business. It is deeply connected to Dolly's roots. Her childhood, Appalachian culture, music and storytelling all helped shape its identity. The girl who once dreamed of escaping poverty eventually helped create a destination that celebrates the very region where she grew up. That's the Dolly Parton paradox. She left the mountains to conquer the world, and then built a piece of the world back in the mountains. Awards and achievements. Dolly's list of accomplishments is staggering. She has received numerous Grammy Awards, earned major nominations across music, television, film and theater, and became a member of both the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She has also received the Kennedy Center Honors, a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and the National Medal of Arts. Remarkably, she belongs to the rare group of entertainers who have received nominations from all 4 major American entertainment award organizations: the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar and Tony Awards. Her music has also reached enormous commercial heights. Her official website says she has sold more than 100 million records worldwide, making her one of the best-selling female artists in history. But perhaps awards and sales aren't what best explain Dolly's impact. Her real achievement is longevity. Generation after generation keeps discovering her. Dolly Parton's legacy. So what will Dolly Parton ultimately be remembered for? The wigs, the rhinestones, the jokes, the huge voice, the songs, the movies, the theme park. All of those things matter. But they only tell part of the story. Dolly Parton's greatest legacy may be that she showed the world you don't have to abandon your roots to become extraordinary. She could have forgotten the tiny Tennessee cabin. Instead, she turned it into part of her mythology. She could have forgotten the father who struggled to read. Instead, she created a global literacy program in his honor. She could have used her wealth only for herself. Instead, she built businesses, supported communities and invested in children. And she could have allowed fame to change who she was. Instead, she made being Dolly the brand. The woman who once stood barefoot on a Tennessee porch eventually became an international icon. The girl with almost nothing became one of the most successful entertainers in history. The songwriter who wrote about heartbreak created songs that would outlive generations. And the little girl who dreamed of making people happy spent her life doing exactly that. Dolly Parton wasn't simply a country music star. She became a symbol of ambition, resilience, generosity and unapologetic individuality. From a tiny cabin in the Smoky Mountains to the biggest stages in the world, Dolly Parton proved that a big dream doesn't need a big beginning. Sometimes, all it needs is a big enough heart. And Dolly had one. That is the legacy of Dolly Parton.